Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the Thai retirement insurance regime, which is set to come online October 31, 2019. Now, I'm making this video in anticipation of that date. I want to be very clear where basically I think it's prudent to go ahead and wait until that date rolls around to see exactly how this is going to be implemented. But I'm going to go ahead and try and do sort of a final roundup of my analysis of how I think this is going to play out. And I want to go ahead and preface this by saying a few things. There are some people out there that have gotten rather angry with me online about the notion that this upcoming insurance regime is only going to apply to a rather discrete subset of visa holders in retiree status, specifically those who obtain their visas outside of Thailand at a Thai embassy or consulate abroad, and that it does not or will not pertain to those who are extending their status here in the kingdom. I do understand where that logic is coming from, and believe me, there has been a great deal of consternation in our office trying to interpret and understand both the Thai and the English versions of this order that's been handed down. But let me go ahead and summarize by saying this. I think it's better to presume the worst case scenario and try to work with that, or have, for lack of a better term, a backup plan in place to deal with that, rather than presuming a rosy scenario and then basically sort of being hit over the head with the worst case scenario. So that's one of the reasons I tend to default to the less positive, or shall we say the less rosy scenario for some folks. The other thing is, candidly, the Thai version of this is very difficult in many ways to fully comprehend the finer points of this. It does not come out and specifically delineate or elucidate exactly the differences, if any, that there may be making between, for example, a visa issued abroad versus a visa issued here in Thailand. As someone whose opinion I highly value has stated here in our office, his presumption is they're presuming, because everyone reading the Thai version would be Thai, there's sort of a presumption of understanding that this pertains to retirement visas on the whole. And if you operate on that presumption, then the thing is actually a pretty straightforward memorandum, if you will, about how this is all supposed to be implemented. If you don't take that presumption that this on the whole pertains to retirement visas, then you get into this sort of bifurcated analysis of extensions versus visas sought abroad. In a totality of my reading of this, and a totality of all the opinions from all the Thai professionals and those who speak, read, and write Thai that have read through this, my personal opinion is that ultimately this is going to apply broadly. And what I mean to say is it will apply to those who are in Thailand in retirement status, whether that be extension status or status issued or garnered, I should say, by dint of visa issuance abroad. That's my opinion on the matter. Now, I can see a reading of this where you would stipulate or state that perhaps those who are already in extension status will not need to deal with insurance moving forward so long as they continue to extend under their prior terms. Every other grandfather clause I've seen in Thai immigration is explicitly stated. This situation, it is not explicitly stated. It's far more vague than I would like it to be, in just clearly delineating that this applies to everybody. I wish, if that is what it is in fact going to be the case, it would just come out and say that. But again, if you presume that it's understood that they're talking about all retirement visas, then reading and interpreting this is relatively straightforward, and it applies to everybody. But if you take the position that this is somehow bifurcated, or that there is a qualitative difference between an OA visa issued abroad and what I would call an OA visa issue or OA visa extension issued here in Thailand, then if you view that there's a qualitative difference there, then I can kind of see where there could be viewed as this, those prior to October 31 who got their extension status don't need to maintain insurance to maintain extension status, so long as they maintain the financial criteria, while those who come along after and have to come in on OA status and extend therefrom don't have to, or do have to deal with that, I should say. They do need to get insurance. I can kind of understand that if you view this as not a unitary category or approach to dealing with all retirees. I do view it as unitary. I do think that they mean to deal with this with respect to both people extending and those who are not extending. But some final thoughts before we deal with enactment, and I'm not going to make another retirement visa video after this until I start getting in some anecdotal evidence from folks who are, and see some stuff online, both in the press as well as on the forums, from people who are actually dealing with this boots on the ground. Because I think any further speculation, one, I think we've probably beaten this horse to death with the videos on this channel. And frankly, I think any further speculation is really kind of a waste of time. I'm making this video because I've gone through this thing over and over. I am reading your comments. I do understand everybody's position on this. The long and the short of it is, I think that based on the interpretation or based on the plain language of it, there's room for various interpretations. That being stated, whether or not I agree with other interpretations besides mine, I candidly just simply don't. More from a policy perspective and the sort of implicit understanding of the language of it, it looks to me like it's going to be broadly enforced. Now, that being said, it remains to be seen, and we'll see it when we see it coming up here after October 31. That stated, a couple of things in the lead up to this that lead me to believe that, in fact, no, this is eventually going to apply to everybody. From Order of the Royal Thai Police number 548/2562, subject amendment for criteria and conditions for consideration of an alien's application for a temporary stay in the kingdom. Toward the end of it, quoting directly, to an alien who has been granted non-immigrant visa class O-A, not exceeding 1 year, and has been permitted to stay in the kingdom before this order is effective, will be able to continually stay in the kingdom for a granted length of stay. So what they're saying there is, the way I read it and the way I've gone through with colleagues and looked at it in Thai, the way that they're saying is, if you got in before the date, if you had a granted length of stay before October 31st, you're going to be left to your own devices for that period. Following that, you're going to need to deal with the new regime. You could logically infer from that in order to maintain one's status, you would need to extend one's status, and this new regime would therefore apply to that. Quoting also from Criteria for Consideration of Granting an Alien's Extension of Stay in the Kingdom, attachment to the Order of the Royal Thai Police number 548/2562, dated September 27, 2019. I want to make this clear again. This is where a lot of this confusion and consternation is coming from, because they specifically have, it almost looks bifurcated. I don't think that's the case. I think they're simply pointing out that these rules even apply to visas issued abroad, even though these are generally issued rules with respect to extensions issued in the kingdom. These insurance rules apply especially, or also, or even to those who apply abroad, okay? So there's been some stuff on the internet where they're talking, oh, no, that only means sought abroad. Fair enough, I'm not going to get into that any further, but what I'd like it noted is, again, this specifically pertains, and I quote, criteria for granting an alien's extension of stay. And this is mentioned in that, okay? Quoting Criterion 6, only for an alien who has been granted non-immigrant visa class OA must buy Thai health insurance online. And here I think is the operative language, which covers the length of stay. So presumably, that length of stay, yes, it presumably is that first year that one is issued OA status for, but that could also be the entire length of that person's stay. They get an initial OA visa and then they extend it. That extension is covered in that quote unquote length of stay. So that's the thing to take away from that. Finally, and frankly, this wasn't much help when I found this, at least with respect to my heartburn and the frustration that interpreting this has caused me in the lead up to this rule change. So from the Nation, nationthailand.com, article is titled Mandatory Health Insurance Due for Long Stay Tourists. Specifically states tourists in this article. Quoting directly, Deputy Minister of Public Health Satit Pitutecha said Wednesday, October 9th, that the Thai government's long implemented medical policy for tourists had led to a rise in foreigners seeking medical treatment in the country. Quoting further, it will be applied to immigrants applying for non-immigrant visa O-A, who will stay in the country for no more than 1 year. Also critically, the pilot project will also be applied to elderly tourists seeking a longer stay in the country, but no more than a year, he said. So, again, now it seems maybe the vagueness in these regulations is stemming from the fact that they may be looking to use this in the context of a more tourist or medical tourism context, and thereby applying these rules, these regulatory rules, via the mechanism we've been trying to interpret via that way. That's what it looks like to me. Another thing, and this is just a pedantic sticking point on my part, just to re-quote, it will be applied to immigrants applying for non-immigrant visa OA. Well, they just in the same sentence contradicted themselves, immigrants and non-immigrants. I'm not bringing that up to point out any sort of proofreading flaw or something like that in this article. Why I bring up that small point is because that seems to be par for the course in the analysis of this entire thing. A lot of this is going to come down to really fine point details, and the draft regulations or the regulations that have been handed down, they are a little less than detailed, or a little less, detailed is the wrong word, I shouldn't say that. They're a little bit less than concise, I should say, or precise. That's the right word. They're a little less than precise with respect to certain fine points of this. And I totally understand why it's causing people some confusion. So I'll leave you with this. We're probably going to end up having to see how the rubber hits the road on this come November 1. And that's just how we're going to have to deal with it. That being stated, and I stand by this remark yet again, I think ultimately this is going to be applied more broadly than narrowly, at the very least. I think at the end of the day, ultimately everybody in retiree status in the kingdom is probably going to end up needing some form of retirement coverage. Exactly how this is going to look, I don't know. And I'm thinking of you folks out there who are making comments regarding, well, I have insurance from abroad. I've had a lot of emails about TRICARE. I simply don't know exactly how this is going to look come November 1 with respect to those types of issues. So I hate to be vague, and I hate to leave folks with, a less than perfect or a less than clear answer, totally clear answer. But suffice it to say, I think what we're going to be looking at is probably more people than not are going to be covered under this new retirement visa insurance regime, and exactly who is going to be covered remains to be seen. We hope you found this video insightful. For those of you who are interested, we're trying to make videos to provide up-to-date information as soon as this information comes out. And for that reason, it may be a good idea to go ahead and click the bell button the bell icon below to go ahead and be updated as these videos come out, as you can go ahead and be apprised of the legal situation as it evolves.